Alright, hello everybody, Friendly Red here, back to do what I do best whenever a new month begins. October is here, and it's not only the month with the highest concentration of spookiness, it may just be the most stacked month of new releases for the entire year. Seriously, there's so much to cover this time around, it's kind of insane. Of course, before we begin, the usual disclaimer. Please keep in mind that release dates are always subject to change, and what's presented in this video may be outdated by the time it is posted. Now, let the tricks, treats, and new video game talk commence. Coming in just after spooky season begins, Ghost of Yōtei launches on the 2nd. Quite fitting that our first game to discuss for October has Ghost in its title, isn't it? Don't be tricked though, this ain't no horror game, but rather an epic, expansive open-world action-adventure game, much like its 2020 predecessor, Ghost of Tsushima. That game is one of my all-time favorite open-world games, and may very well be one of the best samurai games ever made, so you'd better believe I'm stoked for a sequel. We've got quite a significant time jump from Tsushima to Yōtei, over 300 years after the events of the first game, and with that jump comes a completely different region of Japan to explore, with this game taking place in the land surrounding Mount Yōtei, which is located in modern-day Hokkaido. There's also our new protagonist, Atsu, who's taken on the guise of an onryo as she seeks revenge against an infamous gang known as the Yōtei 6, who are responsible for her family's murder. Her main goal is to hunt down and eliminate each member of the Yōtei 6 as she explores the area surrounding Mount Yōtei, but much like the first game, there will be plenty of side activities, player upgrades, secrets, and more to uncover, should you decide to wander off the beaten path, take a little break from the hunt. It does seem like the main quest for Yōtei will be a bit more freeform than Tsushima, as that game sort of locked you into specific areas of the world for large sections of the story, only opening up the next portion of the island once you progress far enough. I think a more open-ended, hunt who you want in whatever order you want mold fits much better with the general gameplay and exploration loop, so I'm certainly not complaining. And overall, Yōtei seems to offer up a much more varied and refined experience compared to its predecessor, giving the player a more open area to explore and play around in. I haven't even mentioned the fact that Atsu can utilize multiple different kinds of melee weapons, which opens the door to so many different kinds of fighting styles, and should make combat encounters much more varied and dynamic, depending on which weapons and tools you use in tandem with one another. With all that in mind, I'm certainly eager to get my hands on Ghost of Yōtei. I've seen a bit of sentiment online that this game feels perhaps a bit too safe, or even that it should have just been DLC for Ghost of Tsushima, but I don't really agree with that. While I can't say anything definitive yet, since, I haven't played the game, to me, Ghost of Yōtei looks to be a smart and confident follow-up to Ghost of Tsushima, taking everything that worked well in that game and adding to it, refining it, and expanding upon it where it makes sense, but not losing what made it special to begin with, or straying so far away from the original game to the point of unrecognizability. Ultimately, Ghost of Yōtei looks to be Ghost of Tsushima, but better, and that's enough to sell me. Ghost of Yōtei will be releasing on Thursday, October 2nd, exclusively for PS5. Just a little over a week later, Battlefield 6 will come crashing onto the scene. This latest entry in the long-running series acts as a bit of a return to form, as more recent entries focused on past and near-future eras of warfare, along with some shakeups to the core of the Battlefield experience that many fans weren't too keen on. Battlefield 6 is looking to right all those wrongs, with a return to modern-day combat, tech, and weaponry, and a renewed focus on the traditional class-based warfare that the series has always been known for, though not without some changes. Unlike our prior talking point, I actually have played Battlefield 6, and quite a lot of it, during the 2 open beta test weekends DICE and EA ran back in August, and I really enjoyed my time with the game. The game looks and runs great, the gunplay felt impactful, and the new dragging mechanic for reviving downed allies is just, it's so good. It's pretty satisfying falling back into my support and engineer roles that I had been away from for quite some time, as the last Battlefield game I really put any significant amount of time into before 6 was Battlefield 1, all the way back in 2016. Of course, what we had in the open beta was only a fraction of what the full game will have on offer, and it certainly wasn't perfect. But while I personally don't have too strong of an opinion on it, I know many fans are still uneasy with the whole open weapon system for classes, and the beta didn't feature any truly large-scale maps to play on, which means we still haven't gotten to really experience the full-on, chaotic, all-out warfare that so many people enjoy from the series. Still, based on what I did play and experience in the beta, I'm feeling pretty good about the game, and I have little doubts that the full game will deliver a truly great modern-day Battlefield experience and act as a proper successor to the previous modern-day warfare greatness that we got with both Battlefield 3 and Battlefield 4. There's also going to be a single-player campaign included in the full release, which I guess is cool, but it isn't exactly what I and many others are buying the game for. It doesn't help that early impressions on it seem to be middling at best, so I don't really know what to think, or how it's going to end up. I suppose it's a shame the campaign may not have gotten the proper amount of work and support it needed to end up being great, but at the same time, I'm glad that the focus was seemingly on making sure that the core multiplayer Battlefield experience was as good as it can be for this new game, as that's why a lot of us are buying and playing Battlefield. I'm certainly ready to get back into it all, continue to do my best with regards to healing up my allied infantry and vehicles, and resupplying them too, of course. For anyone else that'll be joining in on launch, good luck out there, soldiers, and I'll see you on the battlefield. Battlefield 6 will be releasing on Friday, October 10th for PS5, Xbox Series consoles, and PC. The next week, the newest entry in the Pokemon Legends spin-off series will finally make its debut when Pokemon Legends ZA releases on Nintendo Switch and Nintendo Switch 2. It's sick rhymes, I know. Like with the first game in the Pokemon Legends series, Legends Arceus, Legends ZA has us returning to a region that was featured in prior Pokemon games. For Legends Arceus, it was a return to the Sinnoh region from Diamond and Pearl, and now for Legends ZA, we'll be returning to the Kalos region, which we first explored in Pokemon X and Y. As a big fan of Gen 4, I was very pleased with the return to Sinnoh in Legends Arceus, even if it was set in the distant past. It was cool to see the origins of my favorite region in the series, and the more open environments and changes to the core Pokemon capture and battle mechanics made it the freshest Pokemon game in quite some time, and really renewed my interest in the series. I was and still am a pretty casual enjoyer of the franchise. While I'd been enjoying the series ever since Diamond and Pearl, for whatever reason, after Sun and Moon, I kinda lost interest for a while. The trend of taking familiar locales, characters, and Pokemon, and mixing them with new gameplay mechanics and features looks to continue on with Legends ZA, though perhaps to an even more extreme degree than what we experience in Legends Arceus. I think the biggest shakeup this time around is the fact that battles will occur in real time, with dodging and positioning of both yourself and your Pokemon playing a key role in said battles. It's quite the departure from what we've all gotten so used to with the series, but it's a change I'm quite welcome to, as I feel it will make battles more frantic and engaging. And this may just be a me thing, but it sort of brings to life the idea of having the types of battles we see in the Pokemon TV shows and movies, which I kind of always wanted in the games when I was younger. Of course, with us returning to Kalos, the key gimmick of the games that previously took place in that region returns as well, that being Mega Evolutions for certain Pokemon, and I'm seriously super happy that this mechanic is finally making a comeback. Mega Evolutions are easily the coolest modern gimmick of the entire Pokemon franchise, allowing for final evolutions of certain Pokemon to go even further beyond in a sense, and evolve once again to gain a slick new look, alongside some boosted and or altered stats as well. No other gimmick that popped up in games after it comes anywhere close to matching the cool factor and flair of Mega Evolutions, and thankfully, despite being away from the mechanic for quite some time, Game Freak hasn't lost their touch, as almost all of the new Mega Evolutions they debuted before launch look great. It seems like most, if not all prior Pokemon that got Mega Evolutions will be back here in ZA, and I'm for sure going to be putting together a team filled with Pokemon that can utilize this long-awaited returning mechanic. So up front, Legends ZA is looking to do a lot right, but there's of course still plenty of room for skepticism. Having the game take place entirely within just a single city in the Kalos region is certainly an interesting choice. And after the technical disaster that was Pokemon Scarlet and Violet on the original Switch, I think it's fair to be a bit concerned about how this game will hold up visually and performance-wise on that original hardware, especially when all the footage that's been shown recently is of the Switch 2 edition. And of course, as I talked about recently in my news peruse for the latest Nintendo Direct, announcing DLC for a game before it even releases, it just feels pretty lame. We've got just a bit longer to see how this next Pokemon Legends game ends up, but I'm cautiously optimistic. Sure, I'm probably just being blinded a lot by the prospect of Mega Evolutions returning, but I also really enjoyed Legends Arceus, and I'm hoping that this game can offer up as much fun as I had with that game, and perhaps even overtake it as my current favorite Pokemon release. Pokemon Legends ZA will be releasing on Thursday, October 16th, exclusively for Nintendo Switch and Nintendo Switch 2. On the spookiest day of the spookiest month, Yacht Club Games, the developers behind Shovel Knight, will treat us to their latest modern retro gaming hybrid masterclass, this time known as Mina the Hollower. Similar to Battlefield 6, I've actually gotten to play some of Mina the Hollower, thanks to the release of a demo a while back, which means I don't have to just rely on trailer footage and speculation on how the game will play, feel, and sound. And the long and short of it is, if you're a fan of the 2D Zelda games, Castlevania games, Shovel Knight, or any combination of all of those, you'll want to check out Mina the Hollower. Much like what they've done before, Yacht Club has taken the best elements from prior 80s and 90s era gaming greats and mixed them all together along with their own ideas, backed up by some amazing 2D pixel artwork, equally amazing and appropriate retro-sounding tunes. This time around, they're applying their talents and skills to a top-down action-adventure game, reminiscent of something like Link's Awakening or the Oracle of Ages and Season games on Game Boy and Game Boy Color, rather than the NES era-inspired 2D platformer that was found in Shovel Knight. And you know, having actually played a bit of the game, I thought I would have had more to say, but I'm honestly coming up empty here. At the same time, given how popular Shovel Knight is, I think it's fair to say Yacht Club has proven themselves to be one of those development teams you can always expect to deliver the goods. And that, along with how easy it is to see what the game is just by glancing at it, means I probably don't need to say too much more. If the superbly crafted retro aesthetics, sound, and action-adventure gameplay aren't enough to sell you though, consider this. You get to play as a mouse who can burrow underground and kill creatures of the night with a whip. Honestly, if that didn't sell you either, then I don't know what will. Mina the Hollower will be releasing on Friday, October 31st for PS4, PS5, Xbox One, Xbox Series consoles, Nintendo Switch, Nintendo Switch 2, and PC. With the high priority releases out of the way, it's time to move on to the usual honorable mention segment that's become a staple of Red's radar now. And my oh my, there's quite a lot more quality looking games releasing in addition to the prior titles, so it's best we get started. Returning to the beginning of Spooky Month, we've got some back-to-back releases to cover, with Kingmaker's Early Access starting us off on the 8th. This is an immensely silly, but awesome looking action strategy hybrid. You play as a modern day soldier who's transported back into medieval times. You'll be able to equip yourself with plenty of contemporary weapons, gear, and vehicles, and head into large-scale battles against waves of ye olden infantry. Or take a more backseat approach and command your own army instead, akin to real-time strategy games like StarCraft. Probably won't be jumping in on this one once the early access begins, but I'll be keeping an eye on its development. And hopefully, whenever I do decide to give it a go, I can get some friends to join in with me, as the game does support up to 4-player co-op, and this seems like it would be even more hectic and enjoyable with more players. Following Kingmakers, Yukari Playly launches on the 9th. This release serves as a bit of a remaster/deluxe edition for 2017's Yooka-Laylee, the crowd-funded spiritual successor to the Banjo-Kazooie games. Never actually got around to playing that original back when it released, which I guess worked out in the end. I can now play this definitive version of the game, complete with everything that made up the original, but with added content, improved visuals, refined mechanics, and rearranged music as well. Also, the physical Switch 2 version of the game will be fully on the game card, and not suffer from the usual game keycard download nonsense that we've seen with a ton of third-party games so far for the system, which is very commendable of the developers at Playtonic. So kudos to them for doing a proper physical release. This one will be out for PS5, Xbox Series consoles, Nintendo Switch 2, and PC. On October 10th, the same day as Battlefield 6, we've got 2 other releases occurring as well, with both Little Nightmares 3 and Ys vs. Trails in the Sky launching. I've not had any experience with the previous Little Nightmares games, but I know they're quite popular, and I've been meaning to try them out for a while now. I'll want to play the first 2 before getting to 3 here, but even so, I felt it was worth highlighting, and I'm especially interested in 3, as it's going to be a cooperative adventure, seemingly taking some inspirations from other co-op greats of recent past, like It Takes Two and Split Fiction. This one will be out for PS4, PS5, Xbox One, Xbox Series consoles, Nintendo Switch, Nintendo Switch 2, and PC. The other game, Ys vs. Trails in the Sky, is quite the peculiar release. Originally launching only in Japan back in 2010 on the PSP, this spin-off serves as a crossover 3D fighting game, mashing together the worlds and characters of Neon Falcom's Trails and Ys series of RPGs, which I've talked about numerous times on the channel before. I'm not exactly expecting this game to be quite on the same level as something like Smash Bros. Or anything like that, but it is cool to see Falcom combine their 2 flagship RPG franchises. And it's also nice that fans of said franchises outside of Japan can finally give this game a go, as this remaster serves as the first time it's available anywhere else. Hopefully it does well enough, as I'd love to see this idea expanded upon and refined even further in a potential sequel, which would also allow for characters from the newer games in both franchises to get in on the action. This remaster will be out for PS4, PS5, Nintendo Switch, and PC. Moving away from back-to-back releases, the next week, developer Double Fine's latest adventure shall be unleashed when Keeper launches on October 17th. I don't think there's really been too much new info or trailers released on this one since its debut at the Xbox Summer Showcase back in June, and if there has, I certainly haven't seen them. Now that's for sure. Really though, I was sold on this one the moment I knew it was a new game from Double Fine, as they've consistently delivered weird, wacky, and wholly unique titles that I've always enjoyed my time with, and I'm sure Keeper will be no different. And to anyone out there that's clamored for a game that allows you to play as a sentient, walking lighthouse, I have good news. you'll be able to finally fulfill that desire very soon. This one will be out for Xbox Series consoles and PC. Just a few days on from Keeper's release, we've got two long-awaited sequels launching on the 21st, with both Ninja Gaiden 4 and Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2 hitting the scene. While these are both sequels and franchises I have no experience in, and little knowledge of, I do know fans in both franchises have been waiting quite some time for them, though perhaps a little less so on the Ninja Gaiden side of things, as fans did get a new 2D entry in the franchise back in July when Ragebound released. I'm quite interested in both that game and Ninja Gaiden 4, especially since 4 has been co-developed with Platinum Games, the masterminds behind modern-day character action game greats such as the Bayonetta series, Metal Gear Rising, and Astral Chain, to name a few. Those are all fantastic, so I'm pretty confident that Platinum Games, alongside the original series developers Team Ninja, will deliver a superb new 3D entry in the series with 4 here. This one is out for PS5, Xbox Series consoles, and PC. As for Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2, all I really know is that it's a long-awaited sequel to quite possibly one of the most legendary cult classic video games ever, that of course being the original Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines game from 2004. I've never personally looked too much into it or the sequel here, I just know that they are basically the quintessential vampire games, or at least the first one is considered to be by many. I'm for sure keeping this one on my radar, and if it turns out good, I'll probably check it out sometime in the near future. It'll be out for PS5, Xbox Series consoles, and PC. Later that same week, the 23rd sees the return of one of the GOATs, with Plants vs. Zombies Replanted. Indeed, this all-time classic is coming back to a modern platform near you, with everything that made the original great. Spruced up in HD, and with some slight new additions as well. There's a few new game modes to try out, support for local co-op and PvP, and a gallery to explore with some concept art and information regarding the game's original development. It also seems like Replanted is combining different aspects and features from the numerous different ports the game had on other platforms into this one version. Though, from what I can tell, what is or isn't officially in this version from those older ones hasn't been 100% confirmed. Regardless, this is a great game to get back in any capacity, and it will be out for PS4, PS5, Xbox One, Xbox Series consoles, Nintendo Switch, Nintendo Switch 2, and PC. Nearing the end of our honorable mention section, Once Upon a Calamari comes rolling in on the 24th. After getting remasters of the first two Katamari games in 2018 and 2023 respectively, Bandai Namco and developer Ren Game got the ball rolling on a wholly new entry in the series, which is exactly what Once Upon a Katamari is. There really is nothing else quite like the Katamari games, and I absolutely adore how bizarre it all is, and how the games just constantly lean into their own insanity. It doesn't seem like this new entry is going to be doing anything major to shake up the Katamari formula, but just having completely brand new stages and music to roll around to is enough for me. That being said, there are a few notable additions, with support items being thrown into the mix, a 4-player multiplayer battle mode where you compete to roll the largest Katamari, and a roster of 69 playable characters, which, you know, is nice. This one will be out for PS5, Xbox Series consoles, Nintendo Switch, and PC. Finally, right near the end of the month, and just before the spookiness reaches its peak, we have 3 simultaneous releases occurring on the 30th. We'll start with Arc Raiders, the new multiplayer extraction shooter coming from developer Embark Studios, also responsible for the finals. Truthfully, I haven't really been keeping up with this one too much, but I did enjoy what I played of the finals back when it released, and I know there's quite a lot of positive buzz around Arc Raiders. I'm certainly not opposed to trying this one out, but given that it's a multiplayer experience, and one that incorporates both PvP and PvE, I'd really only want to jump in if I have some friends that are also interested in doing so. Thankfully, Embark's got anyone who's unsure on the game covered, as they're going to be hosting an open playtest for the game later this month, from October 17th to the 19th. I suppose I'll find out soon enough if this will be joining me and my friends' lineup of go-to multiplayer games, and it'll be out for PS5, Xbox Series consoles, and PC. Our other 2 releases for the 30th are collections of older titles, with Dragon Quest I Plus 2 HD 2D Remake, bundling up and modernizing the next chapters of the Urgic trilogy for modern hardware and audiences, and the Mortal Kombat Legacy Collection, compiling almost all of the early Mortal Kombat entries, both mainline and spin-offs, into one legendary package, complete with different versions of the games based on their arcade and console ports, and plenty of documentaries, art, and behind-the-scenes info. Dragon Quest I Plus 2 HD 2D Remake should be pretty familiar to anyone who played last year's HD 2D remake of 3, though with seemingly more changes and additions compared to what that game had. However, I can't exactly personally confirm that, as I still haven't gotten to the remake of 3. It's still on my radar though, as is 1 Plus 2, of course, and I'm very much looking forward to going through the games that started it all for this legendary JRPG series. As for the Mortal Kombat Legacy Collection, while I do enjoy some MK every now and then, I'm honestly more excited for it simply due to it being a new release from Digital Eclipse. I talked about them last year in my November Red's Radar for their work on Tetris Forever, but the TLDW is that these guys are the absolute kings of video game collections, and really go above and beyond when it comes to not just preserving the games, but the art, stories, sounds, and all the other developmental information and history that went into making these games in the first place. Buying and playing a Digital Eclipse collection is essentially like entering a digital museum for that specific game series or developer, and I always look forward to whatever company or series they set their sights on next. And Mortal Kombat is a perfect fit for them, and certainly worthy of the Digital Eclipse treatment. This one will be out for PS4, PS5, Xbox One, Xbox Series consoles, Nintendo Switch 2, and PC. Thus concludes the Red's Radar October 2025 edition. It should be apparent now, but I wasn't lying when I said that this is the most stacked month for new releases. I'm sure there's even more games releasing that I didn't mention here, either because I'm not personally too interested in them myself, or I just forgot. I'm almost certainly going to end up getting all the priority picks I talked about, as they're all games I really want to play as soon as possible. Follow up to one of my all-time favorite open world games, a proper return to form for the Battlefield series, another entry in the Pokemon Legends series, which produced my current favorite Pokemon game, and funny 2D mouse game, courtesy of the developers of Shovel Knight. And those are all way too enticing to not play upon release, even if my wallet's going to be hurting quite a lot because of it. At least Mina the Hollower will be cheaper than all the others, which is a nice treat to end the month on. Overall, it's looking like October is going to be a fantastic month for fans of the playing of video games, and I'm ready for the new games to start releasing. Whether you'll be playing some of the priority releases, honorable mentions, or even indulging in some appropriately themed scary games for this 2025 spooky season, I do hope you enjoy. May your spooky month be filled with plenty of treats, and at least a few tricks, for good measure. But with all that being said, I think that'll do it for this video. If you made it to the end, I thank you for watching. Your continued viewership and support is greatly appreciated. I hope I was able to entertain, inform, and perhaps interest you in some upcoming games you may not have known about. And last, but certainly not least, as always, I'll see you next time.